So I'm going to start with having everybody go around and introduce themselves so that I don't forget that at the end of the whole process. And I'll call you in the order I see you on the computer, so on the screen. So Nancy, tell us who you are and how long you've been coming to Erace.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Nancy Moore, and I'm in the New Orleans area, and I've been coming to Erace since June of 2007.
Thank you. Beatrice?
Hi, good morning. I'm Beatrice Sublé. I'm here in East Point, Georgia. Been coming to Erace since '93 when I lived in New Orleans, and founder of Erace Atlanta. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Marva, welcome back.
Good morning. My name is Marva. I have a speech impediment, and glad to be back. And I'm going to enjoy my nephew, Gabriel, being and observing Glenn close up.
Thank you, Marva. Teresa. Oh, we can't hear you.
Double muted. Hello.
Yeah.
Okay, let me start again. I'm Teresa. I think I'll just mute myself from here. It's easier to reach. I'm Teresa from Fayetteville, North Carolina. I've been coming since I think August 2022. And I got my little theater background up because I'm going to see the Bob Marley movie today. Very excited about that. So
Nice. Larry.
Good morning, I'm Larry, and I'm in New Orleans. Been coming to Erace since about 1994, 95.
Thank you. I'm going to skip Cheryl since she's still trying to get on. Louise.
Hey, I'm Louise, and I've been a member of Erace for over 2 decades with a big break in the middle, and very glad to be here. Yay.
Welcome. Gabriel.
Well, how y'all doing? I'm Gabriel Vicknell III, and I'm from New Orleans, but I stay in Spring, Texas right now. This is my second episode. This is my second viewing of Erase, so I'm glad to be here as well.
Well, we're glad you came back and you didn't get scared when we beat up on your uncle. And Glenn.
Yeah, Gabe, just get used to it. You'll see that they got some Karens in here.
That's it? That's all you got to say to introduce yourself? Glenn?
Yeah, I've been coming to Erace since 1994. Glad to be here this morning.
Thank you all. So at this point, everybody can mute themselves and you can unmute when you're called on to speak. So I'm going to go through our opening information and the land acknowledgement. Erases. Oh, I'm Phyllis, by the way. I'm facilitating today. I picked the article. Eracism is the slogan of the group Erace, which was formed in New Orleans in the summer of 1993. We seek ways through person-to-person communication to show that we are committed to treating all human beings with love, respect, empathy, compassion, and humility. Join us. Erace is an organization that does not espouse any political party, and we have no religious affiliation. We believe in acceptance of all people, and no personal attacks of any kind will be tolerated. We come with the intention to listen, learn, and not to argue. So the format of the meeting, I think everybody's familiar, but I will keep a list of people who indicate they want to get on the list to speak. To indicate you want to get on the list, you can raise one finger and move it slowly so the motion is detected. And also, you can, if you don't have video, you can just raise your hand in the Zoom app. so each person who's called on to speak will have 2 minutes. Louise, do you have your timer?
I can go and get it.
Okay.
In one,
Yeah.
yes, I'll do the timing for you.
Okay, so Louise will do the timings because she's the only one who can make hers heard, and you'll hear that. And so when you're called on to speak, you'll have 2 minutes. We ask that you respect the speaker, no side comments, which is harder to do in Zoom, especially if you stay muted. And if the person speaking, excuse me, says something that you don't understand, or didn't even maybe catch a word they said, you can raise 2 fingers and you'll get to jump in and ask them the question. The question should only be, can you clarify what you said by, or can you explain what you meant by? It should not be started with a monologue, and it should not be to rebut anything they said, but to clarify. If you want to rebut what they said, you can get on the list. There are 2 clarifying questions per speaker. So if 3 people indicate they want to ask clarifying questions, only 2 will get to. Towards the end, depending on how many people we end up with, there will be a final go round, and anybody who has not spoken will get 2 minutes. Anybody who has will get 1 minute. And I'll start that with the 2-minute people. I think that's good. So I'm going to read the land acknowledgement. We begin today by acknowledging that what we know as the United States is the ancestral and unceded territory of many indigenous peoples, and that there are many more nations and tribes that could be named here. Members of our meeting group today are on the lands of the Chitimacha and Choctaw in New Orleans, the Creeks and Cherokees in Atlanta, the Tonkawan, Lipan Apache, and Comanche in Austin, the Lenape and Piscataway in Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, the Wampanoag and Nipmuc peoples in Boston, the Coahuila and Mojave in Riverside, and the Lumbee in Fayetteville. We thank their ancestors for being stewards of these lands through the generations and through today. We need to protect and honor the history and people of these places. Despite centuries of colonial theft and violence, we should always remember that we are all still on indigenous land, and it will always be indigenous land. Thank you. So Leonetta, do you want to introduce yourself before I get started on why I brought the topic and then open the list?
Good morning. I am in New Orleans, and I've been a member of Erace since I've been working on my undergrad. I think it was undergrad. I was an intern.
Great, welcome back.
Okay.
And Amal, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning.
Good morning.
Amal.
You spell your name?
No, it's somebody else did something with my computer and they misspelled it, but it's
Okay.
I'm gonna correct it.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm Amal, been coming to Erace since 1997 and always enjoy the exchange.
Good, thank you. And Greer. Do you want to introduce yourself, Greer? It looks like you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Okay, well, if you want to raise a hand, you know how to do it, and hopefully we'll be able to hear you later. Okay, so a few weeks ago, Marla brought the article about the author that some Swifties were upset with because she was criticizing Taylor Swift's silence on the genocide in Palestine. And the article didn't really go into what that person's about. So the person that was being criticized, she is of Pakistani or Indian heritage. Her name is Saira Rao. And I found this article that she published, I think this was Newsweek. And just talking about, you know, the Karen phenomena and the work that she's done with the Race to Dinner program with herself and Regina Jackson. And she makes they've also written a book, and they make really good critiques of white supremacy, and especially how white women uphold white supremacy. I just randomly scrolled and found a video. She was doing a conversation with somebody, it looked like a Muslim or Palestinian woman who, say Muslim and or Palestinian woman who, and what Saira was saying was that white women are taught to be nice instead of kind. And nice usually means don't be rude, don't rock the boat, don't speak out, just be a good girl. So that's why I brought the article. I wanted us to know some more about Saira Rao. And Greer, your hand is up. What's up? Do you want to get on the list?
Oh yeah, I came in a little late because I was updating. I didn't know had you guys started. I thought you started.
Okay, yeah. We did the introductions. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Greer. I've been coming to Erace since I think 2007, 2008. And I really enjoy coming here. Been out of the loop for a minute, but I'm back. Good morning, everyone.
And did you want to get on the list?
Yes, I do.
Okay, well then you're first. Anybody else want to get on the list? I don't see any hands. Okay. Oh, Greer and then Teresa, and Louise is going to keep time. Okay, go ahead, Greer.
It's a ever evolving, but yet it's the same thing over and over again. Nobody's concern for racism is valid unless a white person validates it. Black people or Asian people or anybody can tell you anything as the person who's being victimized. But until a white person confirms it, then you're just blowing things out of proportion. And I felt this in this article because when she said, well, have you ever sent anybody of color to this place to stay? And then she was like, oh, I didn't think about that. That's what I'm assuming she said in her mind. Oh, I didn't think about that. So until she validated it, there was no problem because she wasn't trying to hear it from the beginning. The lady who set this.
You muted yourself, the HR person, yeah, in her New York office. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting that she said no one else has ever complained without thinking that nobody else has been a person of color. And sorry, I should not have said anything just now. I'm breaking the rules. Okay, Teresa, you're next.
All right, I wanted to comment first about your comment about how white women are raised to be nice. I had a roommate and she bought into that whole I can't be anything bad because I'm nice BS. And it was to the point of delusional. Okay, so she wasn't a nice white woman. She would just basically lie about not doing certain things and then other people. And it was so funny because if it was an argument with me involved, another part of her personality was that she wanted to win, whether it was a game or an argument or whatever else. And if I would call her out for not telling the truth, She just keep arguing and blah, 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 tit for tat, whatever. If another white woman would say, that's not right, you da 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 da, she would stop. She would never admit that she was lying. She would never admit she was wrong, but she would stop arguing and get that like, oh, I've been whatever. But it was just interesting. So being raised to be a nice white woman doesn't actually mean that that's going to be your you're going to have so much integrity. It could mean that you're just going to be a liar and you're very comfortable with lying because I can't possibly be wrong. And I recently had an experience where I didn't even bring up the thing about white privilege, but I'm an avid yogi. And if anybody else goes to yoga or any workout class, there's no reservations. It's first come, first serve. And it was a situation where I came first, put my mat down, and two white women told me that that spot was reserved. And I was taken aback because there are no reservations. But I nicely moved my mat over so their friend could set his mat up because he came later. And I talked to the teacher after the class because I said that was very unwelcoming. I didn't think there was any reservations. And her answer was, there are no reservations. She's like, technically, there are no reservations. But if those ladies' friend shows up, then, he gets a little twitchy and da da da. And in my mind, I'm thinking, there are no reservations, but white privilege can win the day. And I didn't even throw out the whole white privilege because I didn't want to hear about how they were nice white women. I didn't want to hear about, oh, you're being racist or any of that crap. I wanted them to just put a placeholder mat down so that people wouldn't think that that spot was open. That was my solution, but I had to do the heavy lifting to come up with that without mentioning race because I didn't want to have the whole race conversation. Okay, thank you, Louise. I hear it.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if you could hear it.
No, I did. I spoke over it because I
I'm
wanted
sorry.
to finish my story, but I'll mute myself now. Thank you.
You let me know if you want to get back on the list at any point. Okay, now we have Beatrice. The list is open after Beatrice.
Can you put me on the list after Beatrice, please?
Yep.
This is just a really brief experience that I actually had last night. I went to a concert at Atlanta Symphony Hall, wonderful Spelman, Morehouse Glee Club and the orchestra, very, very nice. And as soon as they introduced the fact that the program was starting, they said, everyone, silence your cell phones and put them away because no pictures, no recording. The woman next to me, she heard that. But you look up, and this is a young white woman, and she's recording, she's taking pictures. And I'm thinking to myself, I nudged my daughter, where do you get the idea that the rules do not apply to you and that you're so cute or whatever that nobody's going to say anything to you? And I guess a lot of my stuff has to do with having been a teacher and a principal and being a rule maker, making people keep the rules, and that was my life. But where do you get this idea you can do this? This is not fair. It's not right. I wouldn't do it. And I would bet you, I probably would lose this bet, but there were not many African-American people that would do that. First of all, as I said, it was basically a performance by, I can't think of the guy's name who curated it, Santos something. But anyway, at any rate, it just infuriated me. I didn't stay infuriated long because I would have missed the performance. But it's that kind of, where do you get the right to do this? Who told you it's okay? Because even if the rules say one thing, you can go rogue and do whatever the hell you want, and nobody's gonna bother you. And I bet if I had held up my camera and my phone, somebody would grab me and my phone. It is part of why our cortisol levels, why we are always weathering, because we are around people who think that the world was created for them. And it's maddening. And there's no way to say anything, especially I'm not in charge of anything there. Anyway, I'm just saying that it's something that is present in the environment, and it's almost in people's deep.
Cheryl. I didn't hear you. There it is. Next is Louise, and then Greer, and then Cheryl.
Beatrice, that's a great way of describing it, being weathered. weathering, just slowly eating away. That's a really good way of describing it. And Teresa, I want to say, do you know, if you had argued that point, just said, no, I'm putting my mat here, they would have thought, oh, angry, aggressive Black woman, there she goes, you know. And so, yeah, it's horrible stuff. I think I've told you this before, but it was about 5, 6 years ago. I went to a really good, like, white supremacy, um, stop being a white supremacist or whatever. I don't know I can't even remember what the group was, but there was a mixture of people, black and white. And the speaker said, all white people are racist. And I have to admit, it got my back up, and I was just like, "What? I don't know. No." I mean, apart from the fact that my dad is Egyptian, you know, but I do pass as white, and so I've had the white privilege, you know, all my life. Um, Anyhow, that really got to me until we went through the 3-day training, and you know, it all made sense. And so I just wanted to throw that in there. I don't think there was an and of course I see these horrible microaggressions in the school that I work at with certain teachers, certain subs that come in, you know, and they make it quite clear that they don't approve of these beautiful dark-skinned kids, and they shouldn't be allowed. Don't worry, I always put them on the don't add to the sub list after I've seen something. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of waffling now, but that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Greer.
Okay. I just was thinking about it's it's an unwritten rule that you can't hurt white women's feelings. And the minute they start crying, white tears, oh, it's the person who made them cry is the most horrible person ever. And they use that as power to get what they want. I mean, I've seen a million videos on social media. And at the same time, white women have supported white men in every wrongdoing that they've ever done. And they've used their white privilege to alter the lives of Black men in this country, and also Black women. This country basically told them this is built for you. Because when all these documents were written about the country, about legislation, law, liberty, happiness, we weren't even people. So in terms of America, they never promised us anything. So really, they never failed us, because all that they created was never meant for us. And I was talking about that with a friend, Miss Walterine. And I was like, you know, Miss Walterine, because of all this stuff going on with Trump, I said, you know what? America never lied to us, because they never promised us anything as human beings. And with that thought process, it sort of freed me from even having expectations about this country. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Greer. I've now got Cheryl and then Amal and Larry. Anybody else?
And
I think this whole thing about white women, you know, it was created a long time ago to be used as a tool. I think it's very, it's hard for me not to think that this was thought out to create this being to support male white supremacy. And with it comes female white supremacy. And I think this is a great subject. It means a lot to me today. I woke up and I saw I was like reading emails, catching up with myself, and I saw the Zoom and I said, I'm gonna go here and learn some stuff. Mardi Gras, around the edges. Does everybody listen around the edges? I went out, like listening around the edges. It's really interesting to people talking about the white supremacy and watching, watching the white women do what they do. I have a perfect Karen appearance. I can't do anything about it. Here it is. I put my hair in a ponytail. I put on a pair of yoga pants, and I look just like Karen. I could dye my hair blonde, would be the only step, or maybe streak it. I will be reading supportive information, because when I go out with friends, white girlfriends, it's amazing to watch the whole thing, because we are created. We are taught to be this way. So that's not recognized. The girlfriends I go out with are people that I can talk to openly. And when it gets weird, like in a restaurant, I mean, I'll get served differently than other people sometimes. It's interesting. Unfortunately, we can talk to them. I personally think the NFL is one of the greatest promoters of this stuff. And I'm here to learn. So thanks for all the comments.
Thank you, Cheryl. Next is Amal, then Larry, then Glenn.
Hold on a minute. I got to ask Cheryl a question.
Okay.
How is the NFL the promoter of what? Promoter of what?
Well, Glenn, in my viewpoint, women that run around and support football are misogynist women. And I probably would go on for a really long time if I really explained it. We can have a private conversation and talk about it, but the ads, the entertainment, just about everything about it.
Okay, thank you.
So Amal, you're up now.
Can you hear me? So, what's interesting, a lot of people, I think, don't consider is that when something doesn't affect your bottom line, it's easy to dismiss that thing as not being real or non-existing. What I mean by that is that racism and white supremacy has not affected white women's or white people's bottom line. So when it doesn't affect your daily existence, it's like out of sight, out of mind. An example of that makes me the example that I'm gonna use is something that I seen some years ago. Anybody who know me knows I'm a huge Muhammad Ali fan. I probably seen every documentary about Muhammad Ali ever made. In this particular documentary, they were interviewing a woman who grew up with Muhammad Ali in Louisville, Kentucky. And she was saying how she was in the midst of these white women who also grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, in the same age category as her and Muhammad. And she said that they were sitting down and they were talking about the good old days of Louisville and how wonderful it was to grow up in good old Louisville, Kentucky. And then at a certain point, she said that she asked the white women, because they were in the same age category as her and Muhammad Ali, do they remember the days of segregation? And she said it was a pause. And the white women looked at each other, then they looked at her, and they all said, no, we don't remember. It's not that segregation didn't exist. It's just that it didn't affect their daily existence or their bottom line. So it was easy to dismiss segregation like, what are you talking about? It's not, it's like I said, it's not that segregation wasn't real or didn't exist. It's just that it didn't affect their everyday daily existence. So that's what I think a lot of people run into when they run into a lot of white women or not just Karens, just white women in period, is that when something is not affecting your daily existence, it's easy to dismiss that thing as not being real.
Thank you, Amal. Larry's next.
Yeah, this article mentions white supremacy 17 times. And sometimes we could have a way of glossing over things that would make us look a little better than reality, an alcoholic or drug addict might be described as being chemical dependent. Prostitution or whoredom might be described as a call girl. And I think what we're dealing with white supremacy is just pure hatred. And I don't think we could deny that. We could deny that. How can you claim to be supreme over people if you don't hate that people, those people? You know, when you talk about supreme, you know, God is supreme. So if you call yourself a white supremacist, that means there's nobody higher than you.
Yeah.
And everybody else have to be subservient to you. So we're dealing with a condition of the heart that has existed for some time. If it's white supremacy, it's a thing of the mind. The mind can be changed. If it's hatred, the hatred has to come from the heart. And all the way from 1619 to Make America Great Again,
Sure.
the heart hasn't changed. And so we're dealing with hatred in America. And the only thing that can stamp out hatred, the only thing that can conquer hatred is love. But we don't like to talk about love because love is God and God is love. But that's what we're dealing with. Only love can conquer the hatred that we're dealing with in America. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Next we have Glenn. Nancy, was that your finger? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I heard someone said that they went to a meeting and then they understood that all white people are racist. That's impossible. You know, I know the white guy that he was adopted by a black family, and I worked with him, and he was inside. He wasn't a white man. His soul was that of a black person. But when white people look at him, they look at him as a white person. And so he would let us know what these white people at work was thinking, what they thought about in the management. He would let us come out there and know what was going on. So, and I know that people who died, even in my time, like those three civil rights workers that got 3 of them got killed in Mississippi, trying to help African Americans. A white woman got killed in Mississippi, trying to help black people. White people being on buses, getting their head beaten in, trying to help it. So you know, sometimes we on the extreme with all that. And I like to say. I'd like to say something what Greer has said, which I agree totally with. We have to have white folks to validate things for us, even how we look. They have to validate they have to validate, oh, our lips are beautiful now in 1980. Our lips are beautiful. Before they were ugly. So after they validated for us, then we feel good about it. We got to stop doing that. We got to we got to have our own mind. That's it.
Thank you, Glenn. Next I have Cheryl, then Greer, then Louise.
Lynn, sometimes you say some really great things. We all need to work with our minds. You are very astute in that. And I just want to tell you, I was not offended when I was told in a class that I was a racist because I'm white. How could I be racist? How did I wrap around that in my mind? I did it by knowing that I am part of a system that is racist. And until this system stops, it kind of includes me because it puts me in a privileged spot. So that's how I interpret that. I don't walk around feeling really bad about myself. I just know that I have to work very hard to be an anti-racist to try to cope with that. And then I wanted to make a comment with Reverend Larry. I thought that you said something also that was really good. Hatred, to cleanse it with love and it being of the heart. It's very true what you said. I believe that racism was created for power. And here's where we might use very different words. But racism is evil. It's non-moral. And here's that word, the devil. there it is manifested. I use different words for it, but that's, I believe, kind of, we would possibly agree on that, but I appreciated what you said.
Thank you, Cheryl. Next is Greer, then Louise.
I'm sort of going to piggyback on what Amal said. It's about the bottom line being affected, and in this country, the bottom line is not just race, but we live in a capitalistic society, so money's going to always play a part in that. If you look at the bus boycotts, they didn't change the law because it was morally wrong what they were doing. They changed the law because they wanted the money. Another thing, when they integrated baseball, they didn't do it because it was the right thing to do. By no means. I mean, they sell that in the stories, they sell that in the movie. They didn't tap into a money source in the Black community because they weren't allowed to be there, and nor would they come to see all white players play. A lot of our problems in racism and capitalism go hand in hand. I'd say 99% of the time. Who are the lowest on the totem pole? It's Black people. But what I find funny is that poor whites are in the same boat that we are in. But because that little elevation of, well, I got white skin and I'm gonna ride this out to see where it's gonna take me, because I'm not Black. But you living in a neighborhood where Black people live. You stay next door to Black people. Your kids go to schools that Black people go to. But your racism doesn't allow you to better your community because you're white, but you're staying around the people who you are supposedly better than. If you were better than them, you wouldn't be living next door to them. And that's our biggest divide in this country. That I'm going to say it, that mental elevation of whiteness where you think you're more than somebody else, and really you're not, because when you open your door, you look out and see me across the street from you. That's it.
Thank you, Greer. Louise, you're next.
Actually, Cheryl just said it for me about how being called a racist, that we're all white people are racist. Yes, she nailed it. We're benefiting from the government, from everything, basically. And whether we like it or not, that's what's happening. Oh shoot, there was another point. God, I'm losing it. I can't remember Glenn. Okay, sorry, I gotta do it. Glenn, you have a rebuttal to certain things, and yet you only use one individual life experience. And so it's a very small argument, basically. Just throwing it out there. I'm sure I'll hear from you soon. Love you. Bye.
Okay, thank you, Louise. I've got Gabriel, Larry, Greer, and then Beatrice. Gabriel. Gabriel, you're next. Are you there?
Is he muted?
He is muted. But he unmuted before. Okay, Gabriel, I'm going to skip you in case you stepped away.
Hey,
And
y'all can hear me now?
oh yeah, I heard you, but then you muted again. I think you keep muting. There you go. Go ahead then.
Y'all can hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, all right. Now this my personal opinion, but I feel as though white folk, white people in general, when they say they're inherently racist, is that even knowingly or unknowingly, certain things, even to the fact that, they have to educate themselves on the unknowing racism that they have, So I honestly think, knowingly or unknowingly, they benefit from their privilege, and they also and they also act as though it doesn't exist. And my gripe is that even though black people or people of color know it exists, the black people that take up for it not existing is kind of pushing us back too. So that like Uncle Glenn said, well, he knows somebody that does that's not like that. So in one instance he'll take up for it, and then in another instance he would say, well, we got to do better as a people, but not acknowledging the hurdles we have to jump over, that is called white supremacy. And I'm gonna leave it like that.
Thank you,
Trying to
Gabriel.
find out okay.
Thank you. Amal, I got you, and Larry, you're next.
It's all right to have a personal opinion, Gabriel. That's all we all have, personal opinions. So don't feel bad. But no, I would agree with Glenn and something he said relative to whites having to validate, the things that we do. And that's been a part of the system that we have been brought up under. And when you look at the nation of the Jews, sometimes they are where they are because they look back at where they came from, whether it was slaves in Egypt or the Holocaust in Germany. And they have a mindset to say, never again, never again. That's why they're slaughtering the Palestinians now, today, because they have this same mindset, never again. And they think the whole world is their enemy. But the article on page 4, it says something like the racism, the disbelief of racism, the anger over the accusation of racism, the absolute lack of concern for the racism itself, and the harm the racism has caused to the Black and brown people. Well, some of the harm that has been caused to Black and brown people has been self-inflicted, because for too long we sought the approval of the majority people, instead of sometimes having a mindset of ourselves to strive for excellence. And yes, of course, from slavery to segregation to Jim Crow, all of it has had a negative impact upon the African Americans, particularly. But that doesn't mean that impact was written in stone, and that we couldn't rise beyond that. And sometimes we have allowed ourselves to be bamboozled and deceived, and to thinking that all we got to do is go to the polls and vote, and our condition is going to change. And like being led by the Pied Piper, we go to the poll and vote for the same wicked blacks that wicked whites have held in the offices. And thank you.
Thank you, Larry. I've got Greer, Beatrice, Amal, Glenn, and Gabriel. And after Gabriel, we'll see how long this takes. I'm going to temporarily close the list and see what time we have. Greer, you're next.
With all this stuff going on, what that's happening in Gaza, one of the providers that I used to work with, we had a hard going with each other, because he would do things that just worked on my nerves, and I would have to sort of chastise her about it. Mind you, this is a doctor. So one of my co-workers who works on the floor with her now, because I no longer work with her, so she was telling me that she was going through something, the doctor, and she's Palestinian. So, she was telling me weird stuff. So I came up to see her, because I knew she was Palestinian too. And just, talk with her. Mind you, I don't have a dog in this fight at all. but I have the compassion of a person who cares because I know him. And I know nobody else was reaching out to her because, I mean, this is America, and basically we're siding on who we want to side with. I'm not saying everybody, but we just know which way this tide is going. But you know, I sat down and talked with her. Her parents are there, and yada yada. And I asked, I said, has anybody else reached out to you? And she said, no. It's like she's going through this by herself. And I'm like, you have all these people who are your colleagues, and they don't care. Now, do I know whether they care because they don't know what she is? Because to me, she looked like a white woman, to be honest with you. But you know, just in getting to know her over time. But it's like every time she sees me, you know, I ask her how she's doing because we'll pass each other here and there, and I'll give her a hug and just, you know, tell her I'm praying for her and her family and everything, that they get out of there because they don't want to leave. But that's the basic love that we need to have for each other just as people. We don't have to have the same background, but I should be able to care about a person just because of they're another living human being that God created. Even though what she's going through doesn't affect me, but I care that it affects her. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Greer. Beatrice is next. Glenn, you can put your hand down. I got you on the list.
I'm looking at this, the sentences that may sound hyperbolic, but I don't think they are. Oceans of denial that white supremacy hurts you too, meaning white people. That white supremacy is also killing you, your children, and your grandchildren too. That white supremacy is killing humanity. I think that it is a difficult concept for people who think they are superior and whose decisions are based on maintaining that position. It's a difficult concept for them to understand that you are also hurting yourself and others that you love. That one of the civil rights leaders, and I don't want to misquote or misname, you cannot stay down with someone, you cannot stay down on someone unless you stay down there too. In other words, if you're in the gutter or if somebody's in the gutter, you got to be down there too. The laws that are being made that hurt, for example, poor people, there are more European American poor people in this country than there are people of color that are poor. And so when a state does not expand Medicaid like Georgia refuses, we have 600,000 people in this state that have no health insurance. So when decisions are made by legislators, politicians, people who are in positions of power, and those decisions are only based on maintaining that power, not doing a good job for the people. I just want to name senator. I want to be a senator. I don't want to do a senator's job and represent the people, whatever. When that hurts everybody. And so if we continue to operate in a society where there are people who think by virtue of the color of their skin, they are superior to another group of people, of any people, we are all damaged by that. We are all damaged, and the future of us is everybody's future is affected. The greatness that we could have as a country is undone. It's just we're working, going backwards on so many things that I, as a civil rights veteran, that I fought for, we're going backwards with so much because we have people in positions that can only see what white supremacy offers, the power that you have just because you're white. And it's hurting everybody, and we got to work on it. It's got to be. Oh.
Thank you, Beatrice. Next is Amal.
Yeah, I wanted to, it was something that I think it was Teresa said when she was going to the yoga class, and how she, you know, moved to another spot when the white women, and I won't say insisted, but it was almost like a demand, like you need to move to another spot. You know, don't do that, because what that allows is for them to continue their behavior because they never been checked.
Right.
And not and because they're gonna step to somebody else like that. And trust me, the women I know, they're not gonna be too nice about the way they respond to that. And the black women I know, I don't just say the women I know, but the black women I know. They ain't gonna be too nice about the way they respond to that because you're not going to move them out of a spot that they got to first. Big and so don't because that allows for white supremacy to maintain its hierarchy in this society, if you will. Like basically, nigga, move out the way, and if you don't, it's gonna be problems. So we have to resist that type of behavior. And I'm not saying that, and I know sometimes you get tired of fighting and you don't want to, sometimes you just want a easy day and you don't want to be out there fighting over something that, you just want to go to yoga class and leave. I get that. But sometimes we have to confront that behavior. Otherwise it continues and those people never get checked and their behavior goes on and on and on. And so that's what I wanted to address that. As far as white people, all white people being racist, I think what people misunderstand is that the difference between having racial hatred and being a racist. And those things aren't always the same. But I'll get back on the list to explain that to somebody.
The list is closed after Teresa. Sorry.
Okay, well, I'll address it.
Okay,
after.
perfect. Glenn is next.
Yeah, I think it's wrong on anybody's part to say that I'm coming from some small personal sample of myself, and or you perceiving you got to be perceiving it wrong. I said one personal thing up. I know about this white man was adopted by black people. Then I went on to something to say that Swarney and Goodman, who was killed in Mississippi for helping black people, that was nationally known. That was not no small occurrence. That was on the news media for months, looking for their bodies. So it was something that was known. So I just think sometimes people, and it's really in the, well, I ain't gonna say that, but look, but anyway, it's perceiving things in the wrong way, and a hint to the wise ought to be sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Gabriel, you're next.
I mastered this. Y'all can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm like, well, why would they want to give up their heaven? Why would they want to give up their kingdom? Why would they want to integrate and lose their privilege? Why? Why would we lose this kingdom we built that's running on all cylinders? Lie after lie after lie, people believe it. Why would we say that they're like my Uncle Glenn said, oh, they got good white folk. Why would we expect those good white folks to take up for the privilege that they have? Why would we think that they would lose everything they built to sacrifice for their goodness? I kind of feel like my cousin Greer. It's almost a something you can't even expect no more. You expect this country to be great, but it's something like you're not even surprised that it's not moving forward as fast as it should. With all of this knowledge being that we have knowledge at our fingertips right now. So I just think if black people would stop taking up for good white folks, because it's only minute situations or small sample sizes. I forgot who said it, but she hit it right on the dot. It's small sample sizes of what's going on in in the whole world. I could go to, like the article say, you could go to London, you could go to France, you could go anywhere in the world, and you're going to be called the N-word. So, you know, it's kind of uphill battle, but you kind of got, as a Black community, you kind of got to respect it, because they have to keep their society and their power, and there's only one way to keep it. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Thank you, Gabriel. Next is Teresa.
Okay, I think, yeah, you said my name. Greer reminded me of this article I wanted to share with everyone. I put it in chat. It's called Black in Medicine. Last article that we talked about before was talking about Black women, and this article was written by a Black woman. Nice and short. I just wanted to put that out there. Amal, you know, the reason why I fumed, I would say almost halfway through my class, is because in the moment, I just thought, yeah, I can move my mat over. I don't want to have this escalation because class hadn't even started. But the way I can live with myself is that I found in my mind, I thought, wow, how nice it is that this incident happened and I'm here early because I wanted to meditate before class. So now I got another thing to meditate on. And that I spoke up, because I even tell myself next time that happens, and I even talked to my sister about it. I said, I may just stand my ground. I may just stay on my mat, and I may, regardless of whether I have room to move that mat over, but I am very happy that I gave the teacher an opportunity that if this happens again, she's not going to be surprised when I do stand my ground. And I do like to think of a non-escalated way of doing it. And I tried to come up with a solution about putting down a spare mat. Like, I don't want to just be complaining about it. And Gabriel, one of the reasons why white supremacists need to give it up is that they didn't build it. They didn't pick their own cotton. They didn't harvest their own coal. All of that stuff is the white supremacist mythology that they built it themselves. If they would have, you wouldn't have brown people here, other than the indigenous who are already here. So I don't buy that any more than I buy, well, you know, and if anybody's a Bill Maher fan, and if you watched last Friday, and he had Ann Coulter on and said, you know, the crime rate would be equal to whites if Black people got married and there weren't any kids out of wedlock. And it's like, thank you for reminding me why I'm not a Republican. But, you know, they have their mythology, and I would just caution you not to buy into it. White people did not build this world themselves. Okay, they don't give us credit, and they don't want to take it. And why they should give it up is out of fairness. You cannot say, and this is how Kennedy got embarrassed when he was trying to say this, that, and the other about somebody else. And they're like, well, look how you treat Black people. It's always going to be called out. And yes, I heard the alarm. So I'm muting now.
Thank you, Teresa. Amal, we have time if you want to go for 2 minutes.
Sure. So what I was saying as it relates to white people being racist is that I think that people confuse the difference between being a racist and having and harboring racial hatred, and those things aren't always the same. There are white people who are racist that are very friendly, and they're not mean. They're not mean-spirited people or anything like that. I think what you have to understand is that in this society, give me an example of entire systems that white people are dismantling, not in conjunction with Black people, on their own. Systems of racism that white people are dismantling that they know affects Black people and other people of color in this country. And when you can show me an example of that, then I'll show you example. Then I'll take the non-racist white people. Other than that, all white people benefit from the privilege that they enjoy in this country, because otherwise if they didn't enjoy the privilege, they will be dismantling the systems that they know are around them every day that affects negatively Black people and other people of color. Give me a historical or present example of that, then we can have that conversation.
Thank you, Amal. Glenn, is that a clarifying question? Glenn?
No, I thought you found some more times. If
Yeah,
you
go
haven't found
ahead,
them with
but
that.
then you're the last one.
All right, good. Then that way Gabe can't come behind.
I can come behind you though.
Yeah, I think we really haven't learned how to compete yet. We can compete for a job, we can compete for an NFL job, but the creation of industry, we still dependent upon others. We're not even trying to compete with them. We think they're too far ahead. We got to stay dependent, and we don't use all the resources that we have at our command, our human intelligence, our human skills, our our uh, our tech our technological people that we have. We rather to be a manager of a store than to own a store. And that's part of our problem. We still have a slave mentality. And we hide it by just blaming the white man for racism. Now that's the actual fact. And that's the truth we don't want to face. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. So now we'll do the wrap up. I got your text, Marva. I'll say something. So the wrap up is 2 minutes each for Nancy, Marva, and Leonetta, who did not speak. So Nancy, you're up for your wrap up.
I'll respond to Glenn because Glenn brings that up in many, what he just said, in many of our meetings. And Glenn, to an extent that may be true, but also there's a lot of factors. I mean, you're fighting an uphill battle, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, depending on where you are. And in many cases, there's so many factors that go into starting a business and owning a business and keeping a business going. It's difficult to do. Oh, the guy from The Wire, and I can't think of his name, it escapes me right now, opened a grocery store on La Palco. By the time he found out, the black guy from The Wire, and Wendell Pierce. And by the time he found out that the grocery store that he had, the grocery store, by the time he found out about it, it had closed. Why? Because people didn't support it, didn't know it existed. I would have supported his store. But by the time I found out he had a store, the store closed down. I mean, there's so many things that go into it. And let us, I know it was over 100 years ago, but let us not forget about the Tulsa massacre. Black people have initiative, Black people have ambition, Black people have resources, but we run into barriers, and that is not a myth, and it's not just in our minds. The other thing that I wanted to say real quickly is I did watch Bill Maher the other night about Ann Coulter, and I just kind of shook my head with her because I hear this all the time on WWL about, well, if you just, stop having babies or having babies out of wedlock, or I mean, it's a bigger and much more complex issue than just not having babies, because these women are out here trying to take care of their children, and you don't give these women, Black women, enough credit for the things that they do to take care of their children. They work 2 and 3 jobs trying to take care of their children. You can't rebut me. You have to wait till the wrap up.
Thank you, Nancy. Next is Marva.
That was a protest hand.
That's a protest. Okay.
Marva, you're next. 2 minutes.
enjoyed this information, the, the discussion, the interaction. I enjoyed myself listening. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Margaret. Next is Leonetta, 2 minutes, if you want to say something.
Yes, I enjoyed this article. I come in my work, I come against, I meet a lot of Karens as victims, and it is so hard. I get so tired of it, especially when the perpetrators are Black men, and multiple Black men especially, and I have to hear the comments, and I have to hold my tongue because of what is said, and it's, let me take a deep breath. To be professional and to not to be an angry Black woman is hard. And let me walk away from that conversation. I wanted to say something about what Nancy said about Black women and their babies. I'm very I work very hard with Black maternal health. There's some people are trying to solve this problem with Black women having babies. As you know, I truly believe there's a conspiracy and the statistics are bearing me out, that Black women, regardless of who she is, how much money she has, how much insurance she has, that she has a 50-50 chance of surviving childbirth and even survive once she has the baby of living. I think it's a conspiracy, and that's just how Lynetta feels. We have a governor that has refused to accept this money to feed the children for the summer. I have no idea his reasoning behind it. He says that it's supposed to be self-sufficient. That's the reason why he doesn't want to accept the money. I think it's cruel for him to not accept this money. A lot of people, I've written a letter to him. I'm trying to get as many people as I can. I wish some of y'all would write a letter to him, just ask him to please accept this money so that the children could eat this summer. And I heard the things. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Leonetta.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll go into the 1 minute wrap up, people, and the first one on the list is Beatrice. Beatrice.
Okay, B is fine. I I hate always to think about the past and reminisce, but you think about Reconstruction and how well we were doing right out of enslavement. We had started schools. We were looking for our family that had been lost during enslavement, and we were making grounds. There were public schools that were created by formerly enslaved African Americans that white children were able to go to because there were no public schools for them. We were making ground. What happens? We get thrown back with Jim Crow. We got our land that with field order number 15 from Sherman. We got that land. We were farming that land. We were doing good. We were working. We were taken back. The steps that we make, 1965, our Voting Rights Act, we have believed the American dream, have fought for it, have fought in the wars. We have done all these things, and we have pushed back. So it's not a matter of us not having the will or not taking it upon ourselves to do it. I mean, life throws stuff at. We got headwinds. Some people got back. Conversation for the article.
I think you were saying some people have the wind at their backs.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Sure. Teresa, you're next.
Thanks. I would also like to say for the people who have the tailwinds, they don't want to follow the rules. They already have the advantage. And part of the advantage is, oh, that's a rule. I'm not going to follow that. You see that from the minute level of, oh, there's no reservations technically at a yoga thing, to, a candidate running for president who thinks he could do this, that, and the other, and that he's having a witch hunt because of blah, blah, blah. So I do like this article. And the first time I'd even heard about this dinner to teach white women not to be racist was with Eracism, and I called it a scam the last time. I still admire these women's hustle to take that money. I mean, wow, what a way to gather, get some of that generational wealth into the hands of brown women. So I still am not I'm still not convinced, but okay, maybe more articles that I read about it, because I haven't watched their movie or anything, But thank you, Phyllis, for bringing that to us.
Thank you. Next is Cheryl.
Thank you for the time together. I enjoyed seeing all of you. Teresa had some word in there. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. This new governor, I don't know what happened. Only 30% of us went out and voted, and he won in a landslide. It's very sad to see that so many people are disheartened right now, is what I feel that was. If we don't feel that we have power, we need to remember to keep trying and inspire others. Have a good week, and everybody stay warm.
Thank you, Cheryl. Larry, you're next.
There's a verse of scripture in the Bible that says, "Brethren, if anyone be overtaken in a fault, ye who are spiritual, restore such a one in the spirit of meekness, least considering yourself, lest thou also be tempted." Which means that if we try to fight hate with hate, it's a losing battle. And for those who are spiritual, our fight is against hatred. White supremacy is a name, it's a phrase, but our fight is against hatred. Because if we don't do it in the spirit of meekness, then Black folk are liable to fall into that same hate that they've encountered with white folk. That was the essence of Martin Luther King and his whole movement, love. He tried to fight hate with love. And that's still the standard bearer for today. But there's not going to be another Martin Luther King on the horizon. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Gabriel, you can do your wrap up.
Okay, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, treat everyone with compassion if possible. Now that's my topic of this. That's the topic of, is it possible? Can we treat people that want to keep power? Because I forgot the brother that brother Reverend Larry said, you combat it with love. Well, sometimes loving the same person that keep your foot on your throat is not a good solution. That's why the Bible say, if possible. But appreciate Miss Beatrice, Miss Nancy, Miss Teresa, my Auntie Marva, Miss Cheryl, and I'm probably missing somebody. Oh, and Grip, and Miss Phyllis for inviting me on, of course.
Well,
thank y'all.
Happy to have you. Louise.
I'm glad that she talks in the article about the UK. Of course, I always come with like, oh, we've got a different history, and it's not like we're all walking around holding hands singing Kumbaya for sure. I mean, it's a bit like, doing a horrible fart under a blanket and then holding the blanket over. It's still there, but it's pretty hidden. So yeah, I do agree that we obviously have that going on. And Glenn, I'm sorry that what your comment that you made today was probably not worthy of dismissal, but I think I just got some PTSD about previous discussions that we have, where you give a personal story and then make a blanket statement about something, just to do with that one personal experience. And Amal, I definitely agree with you. It's racial hatred is different from the racial supremacy. The ignorant don't want to change, and yet there are ignorant who want to change. So there's the difference, you know. Yeah, and it's good to see you again, Amal. I just praise you because you were a 19-year-old boy when I first met you, coming to the meetings, and you know, I have the utmost respect for you for doing that, and I can't tell you how much it meant to me and Roy to see you at those meetings in New Orleans. So yeah, love you. Bye, everyone.
Oh, okay. Gwen is next.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm not gonna ditto what my little nephew said, Gabriel. I mean, y'all see that's white privilege at work. He giving y'all all the praise, and I'm the one invited. Y'all didn't give him how to get on this racism. So what's wrong with him? He mixed up. Uh, I think I forgot somebody. Well, yeah, you did forget somebody.
Sorry, Uncle Glenn.
He forgot me too, so don't worry.
All right, look, I'm
And
gonna
I
let it go at
think
that.
think he just meant that I let him into the Zoom meeting.
Yeah, that's white privilege. That's all it is.
He
Okay,
thanked me too, and I'm a black woman.
Nancy
All right,
and
that's
Beatrice.
all I gotta say. I'm
Okay,
signing off.
okay. Amal, you're next.
Thank you, Louise, for such kind words. I appreciate that. So I enjoyed the meeting. I had been working some weekends, so it's been a while since I've been here. But yeah, white supremacy is real, as well as racism. And for those who want to live in the world where they think these things don't exist, once again, it's easy to do that when these things don't affect your daily existence. I'm a black man in this society. I recognize that. I have no quarrels with that. I'm not ashamed of that. And I'm not about to compromise and allow white supremacy to continue without fighting it every time I see it rears its ugly head. And keep in mind, when I say white supremacy, I'm not just talking about something that white people practice. There's some black people that I've met that harbor white supremacist ideas and philosophy. So I check them too. I don't want it to come off like it's just white people. It's black people too that manifest white supremacist ideas.
Thank you, Amal. Greer, the final wrap up, and then I'll go into my final words.
Great subject. I just got to say this. There's this benevolence tale about the North being so much better than the South. When slavery was ended was because of us expanding into the industrial age. If you were a slave in the North, you were a slave in the South. And the same thing that happened to you in the North happened to you in the South. And the people who are in the North right now and the people in the South right now, the ancestors of both of those people. And they're both still treating us wrongly. And this comment goes to my uncle. Black women are one of the most educated segments of society in the United States. So where are the black men? My question to you is, we realize there's been agendas against you guys since they brought us over here directly to take away your manhood and your ability to take care of yourself and your family. Believe me, we see it. We see everything about it. America has no place for us. So for us trying to build wealth in this country, short of being a baller or a rapper, is a very hard thing because they're still standing, those North and South people, and the North was supposed to be the ones loving us, are still standing on our backs today. That's it. I'll leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Greer. So I'll go into my final thoughts and then we'll stop the recording and we'll do some announcements. First I want to say the idea that I think Teresa said, but I could be wrong, about white women like dismissing that segregation was going on because it didn't affect them. Probably white men too. So there's videos being made by Israelis and other Zionists where they'll be walking around somewhere in Israel and they'll say, I don't see the apartheid. Where's the apartheid? And one of them was the American actor and so-called comedian Michael Rappaport. And he said, I'm on Ben Yehuda Street. Well, I've been on Ben Yehuda Street in West Jerusalem, which is a Israeli neighborhood. And yeah, there's apartheid there. And the reason he couldn't see it is because of his skin color and his Jewish identity, and probably also his American privilege. So that I totally buy that people back in the days of segregation would do the same thing. So there's so many things I wrote down. Well, I would say that we're all affected by what's happening to Palestinians because, as with the BLM movement, everything is practiced on Black or brown people, and then they move it on to white people. Or they'll move it on to people in more privileged countries. We've already got the Israelis and American police forces co-training each other. We already see how the police in some cities have done things that's really similar to the Israeli occupation force. And the idea of white supremacy doesn't affect white people's bottom line. It might, I believe it does, but it is white supremacists are willing to make a sacrifice as long as Black people and brown people don't get equal footing. And an example is the when some states and cities were going to have to desegregate their pools, they just filled the pools in with concrete. So nobody gets to have a free swimming pool. I mean, I would like to have free swimming pools. But no. I totally believe the concept that the validation of a white person that something is racist other white people will then say, oh yeah, I see that now. But if a Black person or several Black people are the only ones telling them, they might not realize it. And the reason I believe that is because I've had two situations in my life where there were issues going on with somebody, and I was trying to get help from the people. And in both cases, it was men that I was trying to get help for who were being really terrible. And it wasn't until another white man spoke up in my defense that any action was taken. So that leads me to say, yeah, it must happen in other situations too. Glenn, I think what people were trying to say was a anecdotal story of like your friend or acquaintance who was raised by Black people is not proof that all white people are racist. And you gave the example of the white people who were active in civil rights. I would argue that they became active in civil rights because they realized they themselves have been beneficiaries of racism and may have actually committed acts of racism. Maybe not lynching, but maybe other things. So, that's what I think. Those people who went out there and sat at the lunch counters with the Black protesters, they wanted to change a system that they realized they'd been complicit in. There was one more thing. Oh, I want to say, Teresa's white yoga people. It's interesting to me that they presented like a reason that was based in some authority. Like there's reservations. They didn't say, hey, our friend gets anxious if he doesn't get to sit by us. Do you mind scooting over? That is a different request than saying that there's, and Teresa knows there's not reservations. So, yeah, I would like to, can you put me in touch with them, Teresa? I'll call them. Hi, this is Phyllis. So I want to say thank you all. This was a very good conversation. I appreciate everybody's participation. And I will stop the recording and then we'll do announcements.